Hello, I'm Dr. Larry Carnes, and welcome to Spotlight TV. We're so glad to have you join us today, and we have a very, very special guest. We're going to introduce to you Miss Vicksay Richardson. How are you today?
I'm blessed, thank you, and you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Thank you for asking. Do this for us. Introduce yourself to our viewing audience and tell them a little bit about who you are.
Well, my name is Vicksay Richardson, as you've already heard, and I am the author of the book, I Was a Virgin When I Married Him, but He Caused Me to Be Treated Like a Prostitute. And the book goes on to say that it's Vickie Vicksay, it took 43 years. I wrote this book simply because I wanted other people to see that God can bring a person through something and you never knew they were going through it. And
Wow.
that's a lot about the book.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, quite an interesting title as you've shared. I was a virgin when I married him, but he caused me to be treated like a prostitute. My journey to becoming Vickie Vicksay, it took 43 years. And so something that's shared here, as we look at it, introduce yourself, that you are the last of 14 children. You were voted most likely to succeed. You completed high school in 3 years instead of 4. And you were number 56 in a class of 560 grade-wise. Talk to us about that, because those are some amazing accomplishments.
Yes, I was my mother's, and it's very important to me that people know we had the same mother and same father. And that's important to me because I'm 66 years old, and I grew up in an era where being a virgin was very important to you, especially if you were raised in a religious home. And so I was one of these people that wanted to please my mother. I wanted to make sure she was proud of me and everything that I did. So I accomplished things in school. I got scholarships. I went to different things that a lot of Black people didn't have the opportunity that were born in 1956. So a lot of people thought I was one of these people that had a silver spoon and that I had been raised a certain way. And so my book tells you that I've been through a journey. I've been
Wow.
through something that people never, and a lot of people that are reading my book now are like, when did you go through that? You never showed it, but they don't realize that when you have God in your life, it makes a completely a difference.
Wow. That's powerful. And it also shares how you would have ranked higher, but because you graduated earlier, it caused your ranking to be calibrated differently. Now, you say something, or the book says something that's very powerful. For many years, I felt like I was a nobody. Speak to us about that and why you felt that way.
Well, I grew up in a family, it was a large family, even though I was the youngest, but we were a very bold family. And we made fun of everything that was wrong with somebody. If you had a mustache nose like I did, you were called mustache nose. I had to wear corrective shoes, and because I had a deformity with my feet, and I had to wear corrective shoes. So
Yes.
I was made fun of. So as of a result, I had very low self-esteem. And
Uh,
that low self-esteem led to the person I chose and thought was going to be my husband that caused me to be treated like a prostitute.
okay. Now that's quite interesting. So low self-esteem because you grew up in a large family, and of course everybody's going to make fun of each other. It's just what siblings do.
Right.
Now, you said this, since you were in the first grade, you've always assisted children with learning disabilities. Even in the first grade, you raised 4 extremely sickly and 1 very difficult foster child while running a full-time daycare from your home. Talk to us about that and what gave you that passion to reach out and extend your love toward others.
Well, my dream was to be an accountant, but God had another plan for my life. And there were 4 children that were at my church, very in a bad situation. And I was going through after the separation and divorce or whatever it was, because little do people know, that's what I want to leave them with. I wasn't even legally married to this man. He was a bigamist. And I had 42 people in my wedding. I always wanted everybody from the time I was a child until I was adult to be in my wedding. And little did I know I wasn't even married to him I'm just going to give you that tidbit. You got to get the book to read the whole thing. And
Okay.
so what happened is I wanted to be an accountant, but I ran from God. I ran from him, and God told me, those 4 children that are at your church, I want you to be their mother. And I'm like, oh Lord. But it was after years of running from God. And I just went through one devastation after one devastation. And then after this marriage, I was ready to sell out to God. It took me a little bit, but after going through what I had to go through with him, I sold out to God.
So
And
speak to
going,
me about, you say that he treated me, he caused me to be treated like a prostitute. Unpack that for us and tell us, where did that come from, and what was it that caused you to be treated that way?
well, he ended up giving me a disease. And at the time, he had caused me to lose my job where I had medical insurance. And so they told me to go to the nearest emergency room. So I actually chose the emergency room where the hospital that I was born in. And I went there. And when the doctors saw me, I sat there for almost 6 hours. They were treating me very poorly. So I sat there just being treated really badly. So finally, a doctor came in and he examined me and he said, oh, you're this, you're that. But little did they know, this was the only man I'd ever been with in my entire life. And so I literally had to tell the doctor, I said, you know what? You're treating me. I said, I was a virgin when I married this man, but you're treating me like a prostitute.
So you
And the
said
doctor,
that to the doctor?
I said that to the doctor. And his
Okay.
demeanor changed because when I went in with this disease that my ex had given me, they thought it was from being a prostitute. So the doctor was treating me very indifferent and treating
Yes.
me very cold hearted. So I had to say to him, why are you treating me like this? You're treating me like I'm a prostitute. And like I said, his whole demeanor changed. So it ended up that I had to go down to the Pima County Health Department. And when I walked in, because I had no medical insurance, thanks to his habits and the things he was doing, get the book,
Wow.
it's very detailed. So they sent
Yeah.
me to the Pima County Health Department and told me, you need to go and be treated. When I walked in with my Bible, there was nobody there but pimps and prostitutes. And everybody was staring at me because they knew I didn't belong there. And
Now,
that's
that's
the title of
powerful.
the book.
Let me ask you this, because we want people to get the book. You said that there, it says something this: every time you fall, get back up and keep on fighting. And then it talks about dying from cancer. Briefly share that with us. Give us something, give our audience something where they can have hope, because someone may be facing the same thing. Talk to us about that.
I fell several times. I had to file bankruptcy behind helping someone 15 times, but I got back up. Every
Okay.
time I've fallen, I've gotten back up. And the other portion was, what did you say the other half was? That
About the cancer, dying from cancer.
I was given 72 hours to live after my first chemo treatment. The doctor told me I was rushed by ambulance to the emergency room, and the doctor told me I had 72 hours to live. He gave me a Neupogen shot in my stomach and
Wow.
said, if this doesn't work, you have 72 hours to live.
72 hours.
72 hours, 3 days. And
My
I was,
goodness.
and he also informed me, he said that it's going to be excruciating pain once this Neupogen shot starts to work. Mind you, they had to give me 3 before it started to work. And
My
it was
goodness.
actually the 68th hour before it kicked in. And I felt like a train was running over me. And the doctor said to me, he said, would you like us to give you something for the pain? And I told him, no, this is the best pain I've ever felt because I know I was going to live. And
My goodness.
I know now I lived in order to be able to tell my story and my journey. And people who have walked by me, seen me from day after day from a little girl, they had no idea that I had been through some of the things I've been through that I talk about in my book.
Wow. That is so powerful. And then you talk about something here. Your father dying at an early age. You were 6 months old and you didn't know him really. You said you only call him daddy because your siblings call him daddy.
He was actually hospitalized when I was 6 months old. But
Wow.
he stayed in the hospital and he actually died when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
My mother would take us all to visit him, but I didn't know him. But because my brothers and sisters and siblings were calling him daddy, I called him daddy too.
Because your siblings did.
So
yeah.
I was actually raised in a single family home.
Wow. Now, molestation, 1960, beating of a lifetime, Mount Olive. What is that about?
The molestation was from someone very close to me. It was a sibling. And no one knew it until I was in my 30s, 40s, something. I decided to share it with my sister one day. And lo and behold, she had been molested as well by the same person.
Yes.
So Mount Olive is my church that I grew up in. It's the church that I was raised in, that my mother took me to from the time that I was born.
Yes.
And I believe that's where I got my foundation. I believe that's where I got my strength from, is because the church of old wasn't like the church of today. You know, everybody raised you. The mother of the church was your mother. If you stepped out of line, the mother of the church got you.
This is true.
And as a result of that, the saying says it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And that's what I was raised under. And Mount Olive was that village. And all of them have died and gone on who helped spank me and did whatever else they did. But I give them the credit because it was their love for me that made such a difference. And Mount Olive was my church.
What a powerful, powerful testimony and an exciting book. So now we've given our viewing audience some nuggets that they can go and purchase this book, because there's a lot more in this book. Of course, we just shared a few things. And so your story is actually a story of victory over some very challenging and difficult situations and circumstances, many you had no control over.
Exactly.
But you said something. There were some principles, there were some values instilled in you by your mother, and you persevere. Share with our viewing audience very quickly. Give them just a few nuggets that they can hold on to that will empower them to persevere in facing some of these same challenges. Take about 30 seconds to do that.
Whenever you're faced with any challenge, it all stems from what you have rooted down in you. And sometimes people haven't gotten the foundation and they're trying to get through things without having the foundation. My mother instilled in me that you can do nothing without God. You can't go anywhere without God, and only what you do for God will last. And so I realized, even when I was suicidal, because you'll read it in the book, when I was suicidal and even attempted to kill myself, there was a small voice in the back of me saying, how can I kill myself but still go to heaven? Because my mother made.
Okay, we have 1 minute. Is there a website or email that you want to give to our viewing audience? Take 30 seconds to do that.
Certainly. You can go to When Love Hurts website, whenlovehurts.org. And then I also have a podcast called When Love Hurts Podcast. And you can reach me at vicksayr@gmail.com and be able to purchase the book. And the book is also available on Amazon.
Excellent, excellent. We want to thank you so much for being with us. Powerful book, fascinating story. Make sure you go out and purchase this book. It's very, very, very powerful, and it'll give you a sense of hope. Hey, I'm Dr. Larry Carnes. It's been a pleasure to have you with us, and we had our very special guest. Thank you for joining us, and remember to join us again right here. We'll be right back for Spotlight TV. Thank you so very much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.